And if you were Japanese, well, I mean...
Bro.
You know how that story goes. Japan was...
Today we are watching the worst times to be alive, which is apparently not right now.
The world is facing a massive turmoil all around it, and people aren't really happy with things like wars that don't need to be happening.
Bye-bye, Russia!
Speed?
Inflation that turned a Little Caesars pizza from $5 to $10. It don't even be tasting good enough for this price. Little Caesars, y'all know you're wrong for this. People barely being able to afford to live. But all things considered, we're probably at the best moment in humanity compared to other times. Which is why we're gonna be looking at the worst
We're doing pretty good right now.
Starting off with none other than caveman times. The name of it in general gives it away. Caveman times.
I don't want to live in a cave.
Caves to survive the nights for slumber. Like, we consider the least you can have in life is shelter. Their shelter was a damp cave with all types of insects.
That is disgusting.
You could barely
that is
around and risk
disgusting.
sleeping because a 20-foot spider might bite your nuts off while you sleep.
Ew.
Could you imagine how sleeping in the winter would have been like? I know that rock bed felt like ice cubes. The typical day for a caveman is waking up and hoping you weren't eaten by either a saber-toothed tiger, a woolly mammoth, or Elon Musk. Then you have to go out and act.
Why was he looking like that? Can we answer why he's built like that? Why is he built like that? Why is he built like a seal? A big fat seal. Bro's stocking up his fat for the winter. Why?
Then you have to go out and actually hunt for your food. And unless you're the liver king and hunting bulls and throwing a testes in your breakfast cereal, you probably don't. And the worst part too is that their weapons weren't even that good. Like, what did they have? Spears, bows and arrows, hammers? We use that in Minecraft now to survive. A spear or bow was probably cool to get a little bird or fox, but what the is it gonna do against the Gigantopithecus? Okay,
the what? Gigantopithecus blackie. Black eye?
I'm not gonna try to pronounce his name, but this big ass ape, an extinct species of ape that were 10 feet tall and weighed over 1,000 pounds. This must be the primate Shaq comes from, because
he's gonna give you a black eye.
You're gonna need about 1,000 arrows to take one of these down. Imagine these lived in modern times with us. The NBA would be paying top dollar to get one of them on their team. But nowadays,
that is so...
we can see one of these creatures and be like, damn, that's crazy.
Literally. Oh my god, the cat with a gun!
And boom, the species would be gone. You also gotta factor in weather too, because unlike today's tools where we can predict when anything is gonna happen, before they had to take a gamble if their village was gonna be up or taken by a tsunami in the middle of the night. I would turn into a villain if I woke up and the whole village was swept away except for me. And people talk about lifespan being low before modern medicine in the past, but imagine in caveman times. They'd be lucky if they celebrated their 18th birthday. Doing my inquisiting research with asking a question on Google, the average caveman lived to 20 to 25 years old, man. He was already...
Imagine you don't even live and get to, like, drink. You have to be, what, 21? So then you just don't make it. Or maybe you don't even get to have a kid. You don't even make it old enough. They had to be having babies so young if you die at 25. That is insane. And if you have a kid, you gotta be alive a few years to take care of it. So what, they had to be, like, 16 and pregnant? These cavemen had it rough. That is so rough.
Considered unk at 12 years old. A caveman could just catch the common cold and everyone in the village already knew it was GG's. If my caveman homie caught the cold and gave it to me, I'm gonna have to spear his ass first before the cold hits. Plus, since there was no hygiene like a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament, they were dying to basic things we prevent nowadays like tooth infections and ass aids. Well, I don't know about ass aids, but a leaf to wipe your ass had to have not been healthy. But the main reason I couldn't live back then, quite frankly, is because everyone was ugly as Like, how am I supposed to be on my Kai Cenat, Duke Dennis, Looks Maxing, Edge Mewing, joking type of timing when I look like this?
None of these words are in the Bible. What are these words, bro?
Bashing my face against the wall and hope my proportions smooth out better like handsome Squidward. The next
they
time
will
we
not.
got is the
They will not.
times. Now, there's a obvious reason I wouldn't survive because, well, let's just say I wouldn't be allowed in the town with the regular folks. But it's not like I'd want to because
they had
like,
some
I know
problems
I already talked about
with
hygiene with the
racism.
caveman, but holy at least they died early. There were actual old people in the medieval times. Back then, they used to actually think it was healthier to not shower. Scientists were not the brightest creatures. They thought diseases were caused by smells, and if you took a shower, it opened up the pores for the disease to enter your body. Which has got to be the dumbest conclusion ever, but hey, that's what you get on a diet of stale bread and moldy cheese. I also like me a nice toilet with the C-ass temp set at 68
what is this clip? Why is bro's pants getting stolen?
Like me a nice toilet with the sea
What is
ass
this
temp set
from?
at 68 degrees Fahrenheit to set forth the environment for my bowels to erupt. But do you know what a medieval toilet looked like? It was a hole in the ground. And after people finished doing their business, they would just throw their outside. Imagine walking to school or work in the morning.
Why does this chicken have shoes?
And you get hit by 5
What am
pounds
I
of
watching?
diarrhea from above. And in medieval times, you better hope you don't get caught with doing a heinous act like being a traitor, being black, because their torture methods were out of pocket for no reason. If you're tapped into the historical side of YouTube, you've already seen how wild they could get. And the names give them away of the torture devices. Like, what type of joist object would be called the breast ripper? The worst breast ripper is the rack.
Hey, don't use that on me, please. Please don't use that on me. I know you're tempted. Please don't use that on me.
They tied you to a mechanical device that rotates and slowly
your
body until every bone broke and you ripped in half. If they bring this back as a torture method, never in my life am I even attempting to do the pettiest crime. I'm gonna be the most stellar citizen the government has ever seen. I'll always make sure to cross the street on a crosswalk, and I'll always make sure to go exactly the speed limit, not risking. And it's not like they even did it for only extreme criminals. If you simply had a different religious belief, they was finna call you a witch and put you on it pronto. Honestly, I don't even know why you would even tell them you have a different religious belief. Like, you gotta be stupid.
You gotta lie.
Politicians and world leaders are corrupt now, but could you imagine back then? You could probably give a king the wrong look, and if he's already mad that day, he'll just send you to be executed. And if I was a king, honestly, I'd probably do that too. Like, if I see some dude in the kingdom that looks handsome and might be a threat to my pulling abilities, I'm gonna have him executed. Game is game. And it's not like anyone was going against the king. If they tried, they would barely have a chance. You would try killing a king, a knight would stop you, then put you through the most excruciating torture to ever exist.
Take him to Detroit.
Detroit?
We also thought quarantine was bad.
getting sent to
a year
Detroit.
and a half or 2 years inside was excruciating. But in medieval times, they had the Black Plague. Yeah, we really shouldn't be complaining. You were waking up every day and bodies were dropping left and right like no tomorrow. One day it was your homie's grandmother gone. The next day it was your grandmother gone. This plague took out 50% of the population. Imagine right now we went from 8 billion to 4 billion. Honestly, I wouldn't mind some of y'all freaks being taken out, but 4 billion was a little too much for me, you know? And their plague was 7 years. Also, the doctors were not helping back then because why did they choose this as their outfit? They look creepy as
True. They picked a fit. They're literally look like little servants of the Grim Reaper, bro. This looks like Grim Reaper cosplay, but you want to be a bird too. Why did we do this? Why did we do this and make people dread more? They're like being visited by death when they're being taken care of by the doctor. That's insane.
No way in hell I'm letting these dudes get near to help me with my medical predicament.
Literally.
They couldn't have chose a scarier costume to go. What were they thinking? Imagine being an innocent child and having the Black Plague, then this thing comes to aid and consulting you. I'ma just say my prayers to my Lord and Savior, then drop dead. The next times we got is segregation times. And if you're not of a melanated skin tone, well, congratulations. You get a one-time pass for this portion of the video to relive it. Let me give a shout out real quick to the GOATs. MLK, Rosa Parks, Malcolm X. Because without them, you wouldn't be watching this video of me. Either that or there would be a black-only YouTube and white-only YouTube.
I'm grateful, my guy. Don't worry.
I would have been pissed off living back then because the hassle you had to get anything while segregated was absurd. Like, we already know everything was separated by black and white places only, but then imagine how many actual black businesses you could go to. The hassle you had to go through alone to be able to open a business was almost impossible. As soon as they saw the race listing on the business application, you know they did not give a fuck. If you had to get a life-threatening surgery, you might as well just end it there. Because there were about 50 people in line in front of you. And even if you did manage to get something luxurious like a car back then, you was getting pulled over every time you drive. You probably couldn't even use the car at nighttime anyways because sundown towns. Which for y'all that don't know are towns that ban non-white people from coming in after sundown. Imagine you don't know randomly drive into the town a minute after sundown and catch a beating. I'd be pissed. And a beating is probably the lightest punishment they'd consider. I'd also be mad too because I wouldn't be able to talk to one of my white homies half the time. You couldn't hang out at the same school, hotels, bars, restaurants, parks, basically anywhere that was fun. The only place we would be able to talk is probably a damn grass field in the middle of Iceland. And if your love happened to be of another race as well, they definitely not gonna let that pass. dumbass. You finna
Yeah,
get
you're
banished
both
from the fam.
cooked.
Why do you think you've
You're
never
both
seen an old
cooked.
light-skinned person? Really question yourself. Have you ever seen an old light-skinned person? They
No.
wasn't breeding them until like 50 years ago. It wasn't allowed. Thank the heavens they allowed it, or else we would have never gotten my pookie wookie trachea snaking. You could be walking down the
What?
street normally doing your own thing, and randomly someone is calling you the hard R like it's Call of Duty. And unlike Call
Yeah.
of Duty where you can talk back, you couldn't risk doing it because you
They're
know
gonna
the
kill
cops are
you.
not taking your side.
They're
You get in a
literally
life
gonna take you
sentence
out
if
if you say
even think of
something.
speaking back. Crazy thing is, some people act like this was like 500 years ago or something. The Civil Rights Act got passed 60 years ago. Some
That is
people alive were
insane.
in their 20s, 30s, and 40s when it got passed.
So there's people alive today that lived through this, that participated in this? That's insane. I wonder, have they moved on? Probably not. That's so bad.
And of course, the last time we got is World War II because, no. Now, World War II was one of those times where every group had it bad. First, you had to get drafted to a war you didn't want to fight. Like, I don't got no problems with anyone. Why the
cat.
fuck am I fighting? These presidents got to start fighting in a boxing ring or something. Because
True.
I'm not fighting with
True.
the problems you got. And patriotism went extra crazy before because kids were dead ass lying to get drafted and fight for
Bro.
the country. I'm doing the exact
What?
opposite of this happen. Whatever means it takes to not be drafted, I'm doing it. If I
Why do people want to be drafted? Why would you want to be drafted? I would never, ever want to be. Are you insane? Are you crazy? Like what?
gotta lie about my age and act 12 years old, I'm doing it. If I gotta
Literally.
go up in a political position and be safe, I'm doing it. If I gotta
Maybe
act
I
like
gotta
I'm
chop
sped
my
for
legs
years,
off. I don't know.
I'm doing it. And it's even worse for other wars like the
You know-
Vietnam War. Because
The thing is, even if you chopped your legs off, they'd probably put you in like a wheelchair with guns equipped and say go out. It's gonna be really hard to convince them. Next time it comes around, hopefully there's not a next time, but next time it comes around, it might be kind of hard to convince them to not send you.
Because they would announce the draft picks on live TV, and whatever
What?
birthday it was, you were getting drafted. They treat it like it's the NFL
That
or
is so
NBA draft.
bad.
Imagine watching this live and them going, okay, and the draft we have for the Vietnam War of 1972 is going to be... okay, I'm March
Bro.
3rd. Please don't be me. Please don't be me. Please don't be me. March 4th. Oh.
Let's go!
Guess I'm good after all. There's been a mistake in the announcement, but we meant
What?
March 3rd. Patriotism really worked back then because all they knew was what the TV played and what the government said. Being on a warfield for months and not knowing when you're gonna either get sniped, hit by a 5-foot tank shell, captured by the
That's
enemy, and
crazy.
being tortured for weeks wasn't really the best living times for people. And if you were Japanese, well, I mean...
Bro.
You know how that story goes.
Bro.
Japan was ruthless though, not gonna lie, but could you imagine you're drafted into the Japanese military and the job they assign you is as a kamikaze? There was no age limit to this job either. They gave
That's
this job to
insane.
teenagers. Your fate is already destined that you're dying. What do you even do at that point? A nigga like me would
Literally.
have to dip in the middle of the mission and just let the plane crash in the ocean. I feel like it would be way easier nowadays to get people to do it though. You could recruit by looking for some emo kids or a sad
my
edit
God.
TikTok comment
Oh
section.
my
You know,
God.
people that wouldn't mind losing their life anyways. And if you were Jewish, well, I mean...
Bro. Bro, I
you
know.
also
We
know how the
know.
story goes. And after being
Oh my
forcibly
God.
drafted to the war, you'd come back home and still be broke. With all that PTSD you
Yeah.
got, it was probably hard to work any job. You couldn't work in
Yeah.
a restaurant because you get PTSD from oil popping from the fryer. You couldn't
Yeah.
work a factory job because you get PTSD from all the loud machines.
Yeah.
You couldn't work as a corn star because you get PTSD from all the clapping. And even if you
Yeah.
do get paid,
Oh my
it's
God.
barely enough to scrap by. There's no reason
does
we
he
should
come
have
up with
homeless
this?
veterans. So yeah, guys, even though the world isn't perfect and things seem like they're always getting worse,
Mm-hmm.
at least you didn't have to be a kamikaze pilot in World War II.
True. I'm grateful. I will say I'm grateful that I did not have to do this.
I think that's the lesson here. Follow me on Twitter,
Thank
Instagram,
you so much,
and
sir.
TikTok. As always, I love you
I'm so
guys
grateful to be alive.
consensually. And until next time, I'm out.
Okay, bye.